Simon, earlier this week we spoke about Newcastle United. This is a story that seems to run and run. Nobody seems to be very happy about anything that goes on at Newcastle United these days. No. And Steve Bruce's issues with the local media. And he has got a problem with the local media because they're not happy with each other. Simon had said that Steve Bruce, really, if he was going to do himself a favour, time up, walk away from the football club. Now, talkSPORT's James Savundra put that to Steve Bruce when Bruce held his news conference just a very short time ago this morning.
But if you're going to manage in the Premier League and at the highest level, make no mistake, it's going to be difficult at times. I understand where Simon's coming from. Where does that leave the club? And I never really thought about it then. Never really entered me to say, oh, okay, just because it's tough here, I'm going to walk away. It's not really in my nature to do that. And I won't walk away. I believe at this particular moment, with the experience I've got, that I can try and help the club. A lot of people will find that laughable, I understand. But that's what I genuinely believe at this difficult moment for the club. There's no disputing that. I hope that my experience can see us through.
Simon, that was Steve Bruce this morning. You got a mention there. You said earlier in the week you didn't like the way he was addressing certain issues and answering certain questions in the earlier news conference. Yeah. What about this morning? Has he got it right this morning?
Well, I think, in context, you've got to realise that I didn't suggest he should walk away because he wasn't capable of doing the job. My overall perspective was quitting whilst you're ahead isn't the same as quitting. You're 12th in the league. You're in a situation where you've got an owner that probably doesn't support you as much as he could do, with a group of fans, or a significant proportion of them, that don't seem to want you there. And whatever you do, however that comes around, I think you're going to find yourself in an invidious position. And sometimes life is not worth it in certain respects in that area. So if he believes, and it's his right and gift, and so he should have that perspective, to say, I'm absolutely not going to quit. I'm going to take this to the very bitter end, and I'm going to manage this football club. I'm going to do everything I can to be successful. Then why shouldn't he say that?
Yeah, it's quite right.
I think he's right to push back. My point was that he was getting very truculent, and I understand the reasons why, and very fed up with certain local journalists. And unfortunately, when they've got the pen, you can't really beat them. You've got to beat them on the pitch. And if you go into a press conference, you've got to be able to hold your own, push back, put them in their place, and be able to put them through the prism of questions that you're being put through. And the only way Steve can do that is by changing the events or not being there. If he believes he can change the events, and that's the lesser of all evils for him, then that's his choice. But I think I was right to say to him, on the back of what I was aware, and Newcastle fans will say that's rubbish, that's Bruce making it up, from what I was aware and what I've heard about some of the abuse that was coming in, about what I look at from the outside in, and my view of the support structure that the club gives him in terms of players, and they'll cite that they've spent 160 million quid, but I'm not getting into the peculiarities of that. I'm looking at the team now and saying, what do you need? If you can get Hamza Chowdhury out of Leicester with no loan fee and 30 grand a week wages, I'm sorry, that's not really a Premier League decision. That's almost a Championship decision.
Yeah.
You can make those decisions if your manager needs them within reason. And I just felt, from the point of view of having a conversation with him 4 or 5 months ago, that you asked me the question, what would my position with Steve be? And I gave you the answer. It's not a dictate of how Steve Bruce feels about things, and he's just told you how he feels about things. He doesn't quit. He sticks. People will say, well, there's reasons behind that. Maybe there's finances involved in it. Maybe he doesn't want to do this, doesn't want to do that. What he does want to do, and I know he does want to do, is he wants Newcastle to be a good size. He wants Newcastle to be an effective football club in the Premier League, and he wants to be the manager of Newcastle United. For me, I think, like I said at the top of this little piece, quitting whilst you're ahead isn't the same as quitting. And then people can make snide comments to that observation if they want. But Newcastle finishing 12th in the Premier League, in my view, is quitting whilst you're ahead. Because I'm not entirely sure where they think they should be above 12. They might want they might have a different brand of football. Yeah, I get
like
that.
Steve, as you do, and I find at times he's just a bit too honest with some of the things that he's been forced to respond to. I mean, we heard him say there this morning, I feel I can still help the football club. A lot of people might find that laughable. He shouldn't say that.
I don't think
Steve, I don't think it's laughable, not for one moment.
But I think that's the basis of being pummeled all the time. I think you lose perspective.
Yeah.
And the perspective that he needs to have is to push his shoulders back, push his chest out, and tell the journalists to do one.
Yeah.
And get his team on the front foot.
Yeah.
And those journalists, with the greatest respect in the world, are piling in on the basis of what fans are wanting them to ask. There isn't a lot of balance from what I can see, but that's me looking from the outside in. We gave a journalist from this newspaper that nicks our content every day and puts it in their newspaper and seems to make me the focal point of whatever gets said about Newcastle, and I don't understand why, an opportunity to come on and tell us why Steve Bruce would be so petulant, would be so truculent, and they declined it.
They wouldn't do it.
So with that in mind, I don't think Brucey should demean himself by saying some people might think it's laughable.
Yeah.
But he's made a decision to stay there and fight the good fight, and I for one, hope he wins it.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.